morning, everybody, and big shout out to all of our friends out there. I'm Steve Farrell with Humanities Team. I'm coming to you live from our studio here in Boulder, Colorado. You can see who I'm with here on the screen, the esteemed Neale Donald Walsch, author of Conversations with God, co-founder of Humanities Team. I'm going to give him a proper introduction here in a moment. Neale, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Esteemed by whom? Oh, yeah, my wife, but nobody else. Okay. The not very esteemed guy. Hi, nice to have you with us.
All right. Well, yeah, no, he's very esteemed. Really grateful to have him with us. We have a great conversation we're going to jump into here today. And in fact, our theme is our biggest initiative ever. Now, and that is for Neale Donald Walsch, Humanities Team, Conversations with God Foundation. We're going to tell you what this is about. It's our biggest initiative ever that we're going to be talking about during this program. Now, as we get started, I want to shout out to our friends, Neale Donald Walsch's friends, Conversations with God's friends, Humanities Team's friends, Humanities Stream Plus friends that are in the green room here with us. Our friends at Sign Network, John Raymer and the Sign Network. So, hooray, thank you for being with us here. Again, this is a live program, so I'm coming to you from Boulder, Colorado. Neale is coming from, Neale, where are you coming in from?
I'm in Nome, Alaska right now. It's very, very cold here. No, I'm in Warsaw, Poland. No, I'm in Moscow. Wait a minute, let me just figure out where. Thank you very much. I'm in my home in Ashland, Oregon.
All right, good. Ashland, Oregon, and Boulder, Colorado. Beautiful weather, and hope it's gorgeous in your part of the world. So now, this is a live program, so we're inviting you, as always, when we do these live programs on Wednesdays, to share your comments and your questions. I've got a little display right here on the other side of the camera where I can see the questions that you're posing out on social media. So the earlier in this hour that you pose questions, comments, things that you want me to bring to Neale, the better chance that I'll bring those to Neale during the hours. So be sure to take advantage of that. Okay, let me give Neale a proper introduction.
Yeah, because otherwise nobody will have any idea who I am and why I'm here. Neale wrote a book called Conversations with God a few years ago. It's been read by a couple of people, and here he is now. Now here's Neale.
Right there. There we go. Now that'd be a brief introduction. So let me just add a little bit to that. Now, he's the celebrated author of the Conversations with God series and a modern-day spiritual messenger. Neale is a longtime and dear friend of mine and Humanities Team, and is a co-founder of Humanities Team. Boy, he could talk all day on that one, of just coming up with the name and the program and the idea. His books and teachings have served to help millions of people develop a modern sense of God and to build the connection between themselves and the divine. And it's true. I mean, I know Neale doesn't want to, he says, don't lionize me now, Steve. So I'm not trying to lionize Neale, but I'm just simply sharing the truth. Boy, my life and so many lives have changed because we really do have a whole new concept of God. I actually had the concept in my mind floating around there. It was kind of the relationship I had with God, but it hadn't been put in writing until Conversations with God came along that affirmed all of what I'd been feeling for so many years.
Yes, so, and I know, honestly, all joking aside, Steve, that's the reaction that I've gotten from many, many, many people through the years. They've written me lovely letters and emails saying, Neale, I know that you had a very special experience, and I've had the same understanding. So when they read the books, they find themselves going like this. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. And many, many, many people, not a few people, find themselves agreeing with most of the words they find in those books, because this is not new information, but it lives inside of the heart and soul of millions of people. I want to say billions of people around the world. But what is new is that, as you pointed out, it's been put into writing now. It's been put into print and distributed far and wide, now available in 37 languages all over the world. That's what's new.
Yeah, and as well, just to say this, for me, and during this hour, we're going to actually talk about this. There is a roadmap here, a roadmap to, as we're in this incredibly challenging time. In fact, we'll just come over and kind of launch into this discussion. But this initiative that I referenced when we opened this program, the biggest initiative ever. So what is it? And we're calling it Changing Humanity's Future. And it is based on, just to be very clear, the Conversations with God 9-book series. Now, I want to just say, jump in here quickly and say, it includes partners and friends and thought leaders all over the world. So we're not building an exclusive little club, Neale and Steve and Conversations with God Foundation and Humanities Team. We are in this for sure. But there are thousands of thought leaders who are part of our Humanity Stream Plus platform. Michael Bernard Beckwith, for God's sakes. This guy's remarkable. To mention one, and there are hundreds of these that are authors and thought leaders and public speakers and seminar and retreat leaders who've created amazing online programs about conscious living. And as well, in the Conversations with God books, it says, this is not about proselytizing. This is about educating. So just as we frame this, boy, don't make any mistake that this initiative is just Neale and me and Humanities Team and Conversations with God Foundation. There are people all over the world, including scientists, who've made this their life work to change humanity's future. All we're doing is squaring the edges on it, putting a time frame on it, and saying, let's go. And there's a roadmap inside of the Conversations with God series. I don't know, Neale, I don't know that he would necessarily use those words, but for me, it is a roadmap. It's very certain, very clear, where Conversations with God talks about things that are directly ahead. Let me read you just a couple of quotes that come straight from the book. So the last book in the 9-book series, of course, is Conversations with God, Book 4, Awaken the Species. And here's a quote right from the book as Neale is talking to God. It says, "This is the most important matter facing the human race if you truly want to take advantage of this being the perfect time for advancement," and he caps, perfect time for advancement, "within your species, allowing it to continue to exist in a wonderful and pleasant version of physicality." So where it's saying we can create a fulfilling life. We can create a sustainable planet. We can create a flourishing planet. All of that, that light at the end of the tunnel is directly ahead. This is what this is speaking to. Right, Neale?
Yes, we don't have to have our life on this planet be the way it's been. Among other things, Steve, most people don't know that we've had armed conflict on this planet for 92% of recorded history. That's just one little statistic. Most people don't know that. Most people don't know that 3.5 billion people have gone their entire lives without a one drop of pure water. In the 21st century. We're not talking about 6,000 years ago. We're talking about today. And there are many other statistics and aspects of our life that needn't be the way they are. I'll give you one last number that you can think about. 653 children die on this planet of starvation every hour. Not every week, not every day, every hour. And we call ourselves an advanced civilization. We say, well, Neale, I know the numbers. It's not very nice, but there's what can we do? Because we're acting as if there's nothing we can do. That becomes the question that burns in my soul, Steve. Why is humanity acting as if there's nothing we can do? So that's what Humanities Team is about. That's what the Conversations with God Foundation is about. That's what this outreach is about. Educating the largest number of people about things that each of us can do, both individually and collectively, and then gathering that energy collectively and sending it forth into the world because we can change humanity's future.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that in, Neale. Let me even go right into what you're talking about, because as you know, our own unfolding of this initiative, as we go back 6 and 8 months to the beginning of it, this is exactly where we were talking about these front porch and back porch conversations. I was bringing in a recent trip. I have 4 brothers. So the 5 of us are sitting together, and we're on a back porch, And it's in the evening, and everybody starts talking about, gee whiz, wow, can you believe the state of our world? I mean, is this a challenging time or what? And is there anything that it was light at the end of the tunnel, something that gets us to some kind of, they didn't use the word flourishing or sustainable planet or a thriving life or anything like this, but it was clear they were just talking about us individually and collectively. Is there any way out? And of course, here I am sitting in this conversation, and my brother Kevin, who's been quite involved in Humanities Team, and Kevin says, "Yeah, I mean, this is all Steve. This is what Steve does. I mean, this is the work of Humanities Team. There absolutely is." And I bring this in, and I mean, in truth, I think I don't think all of my brothers were convinced at all. So I think there are these conversations going on all over the world where people are just sitting there, having this conversation. Oh my God, now look what we've got. Now there's COVID. Now there's the Ukraine. Now climate change is worse. Blah blah blah. And yet, right here, right now, there's a solution. This is what this greatest initiative ever is. There's a solution right here, isn't there, Neale?
Yes, I call it the God solution. And I've articulated a portion of that solution, a major portion, in the book called The God Solution. Yes, and the frustration is not that there's no solution. The frustration is that nobody is using it. It's right there in front of us, and very few people are using it. Even those who are aware of it are not necessarily using it. So the opportunity that's now before us in Humanities Team is to create the solution as an operable, functioning reality in everyday life. It shouldn't be that difficult to do. And what's interesting, Steve? It's not a solution that most people disagree with. It's not something that people, when they hear about it, they go, "Oh, I can't agree with that. I don't agree." In fact, it's just the opposite. When people are aware of what the solutions are, almost everyone goes, "Makes total sense to me. Yeah, I agree with it." So the question becomes, if so many people agree with the solution, why, in fact, are we not putting it into place? And the answer is quite simple. Until now, there has not been an easy way for all of us to come to clarity and to a mutual understanding of what the solution is. These days, because things are so much different than they were even 5 or 10 years ago, for instance, just what we're doing right here. Can you imagine 8 or 10 years ago? We weren't doing this. We weren't having these kinds of video programs you could just access and everybody could just jump in and join in and have conversations with us from any place in the world with a machine on your lap. So because technology is now making it possible for us to take the solution with which most of us agree and begin to put it into place by sharing the information instantly and vastly with people all over the world. That's what's different now. That's what makes this such an ideal moment, as we were told in the Conversations with God messages. So yes, I agree with you. The solution is there, and now the ability to put that solution into place is there as well, if we can get Trent and Garth and Gerald and Joanne and the rest of you who are here to agree to become part of the process. That's where the screw turns. We got to have the Trents of the world joining in.
Boy, and if that's Trent Block, has he joined in a big way or what? Well, he's one of our huge leaders in Humanities Team that's been supporting this initiative, Changing Humanity's Future. And I want to mention Claire is posted. We're going to bring in her question a little bit. Also, Oscar Panoshi. So thank you. We're going to get to plenty of questions here during the hour. Well, let me just go back to some Conversations with God material. I'm going to read you a few. These are direct quotes from the book. Let me read these and just make an observation then. So here are a couple of more quotes. I can assure you that all of you will awaken, and the all of you will awaken is capitalized. This is part of a process of evolution, the process of rejoining the inseparable, knowing again that separation never occurred. Each of you will awaken because no part of God can be deserted by God. This is from the Tomorrow's God book, one of the 9 books in the Conversations with God series. This is actually also the book where the humanities team conversation occurs. So here's another quote from Tomorrow's God. It says, "The Day of Atonement, that is at dash capitalized one dash meant, is near at hand." So now let me just make this up.
The Day of Atonement, at one minute. See, God has this wonderful ability to take the human language as we're now using it and use it in a new way so that we can really see what the language is trying to tell us. We've heard about the Day of Atonement for centuries, but only recently have we heard, oh, I see, atonement at one minute. An expanded, huge, new understanding of what atonement really means.
Right, exactly. And of course, the Conversations with God book is just a treasure chest of things like this that are, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Which is why when book 1 was published, you were sharing that story earlier, Neale, why it did, go to the moon and back, because it just, the number of jaw-dropping wisdom statements that were just there, including a new 10 commandments, or commitments, they're called the 10 commitments, was just astounding. There's just nothing that I've ever seen in book form like this. Now, let me just say something here as I'm reading these quotes, because viewers could be, at least some of you, saying, Steve, why Tomorrow's God? Okay, that came out, how many, 15 years ago or something, and even, the latest Conversations with God, Waken the Species, nice quote, interesting. Okay, but here's the thing. Now this is just me speaking, though there are many in humanities team that would say the same thing, if not all of them, and I'm going to guess even a lot of you viewers. We have conversations with God in our own lives all day long, every day, don't we? I mean, my dog does, where she goes, she has this impulse of she's going to go do this or go do that, or then I'll watch geese fly in this formation where clearly there's something there that is creating cohesion, or fish, or we're having conversations with God all day long, every day. So that in this time of challenge and turmoil, that God would say, oh, this might be a nice time to create a big public conversation, to create a little clarity, little direction. I mean, is that so astounding that would happen? If you were God, wouldn't you maybe want to do the same thing? Boy, people are praying like crazy down there on earth. I think I'll create a book series with Neale, in this case, Neale Donald Walsch, and lay out some clarity and some stepping stones that can get us to the other side of this. So this is how I see it. And the wisdom in Conversations with God is how do you take a shot at that? Whether I'm talking to a scientist or a philosopher, I've never seen anybody take any of it apart. It's just, it stands on its own. So now, where I'm going with this is, let's come back to this whole thing of all this challenge, that front porch conversation, that back porch conversation, that conversation on your couch. I'm guessing all of you have been a party to at least one conversation like that in the last couple of years, if not many more, where people are saying, what can we do? Is there a way? Is there a roadmap here? And there is a very clear roadmap. And Conversations with God lays out a very clear roadmap. And then in addition, it keeps bringing back education, and then you've got the Michael Bernard Beckwiths who just did this masterclass with Neale called Discover Your Soul's Purpose, with unbelievable, and there are all these other incredible teachers that have created unbelievable programs about living consciously, which is this at-one-ment thing. So that's what we're doing here. Well, the greatest initiative ever. All we're doing is just collecting up these things that speak about with clarity to, this is what we're calling it conscious living, which is the at-one-ment. These are just the basic things, and then inviting all of these, right now, you, viewers, this is really not about me and Neale. It's really about an invitation of, do you want to, in your life, in your home, in your office, do you want to be an ambassador of this, where we change humanity's future? We bring the answer around to this crazy question that keeps getting asked without an answer. It's actually a good question, but it's always going without an answer. Let's make sure there's an answer there in these conversations, and let's journey to the other side of this light at the end of the tunnel that we can all see so clearly. Neale, I know you want to talk about this.
Well, I want to add that here's where, how and where you come in. Because what I want all of us to understand is that no one's going to come along, with the sword Excalibur and put it on each of our shoulders and knight us in the field. That is, we're not going to be given a specific knighthood or an assignment, directly. No one's going to say, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. And see, so that's not how it works. Humanities Team, the Conversations with God Foundation, Steve and Neale, none of us are going to say to you, oh, this is what, you need to do. This is your destiny. So here's what I've learned in the Conversations with God experience, my friends. It's a process by which we self-select. We select ourselves. We say to ourselves, I'm in. And I'm not waiting for someone else to tell me what to do. I have an intuitive sense of what I can do, what I'm able to do, what is mine to do, my gifts, my talents, my energy, my opportunity. And I'm going to lend all of that, my resources, whatever they might be, all the resources at my disposal. I'm going to put that at the disposal of this outreach, of this campaign to change humanity's future. But it's a process of self-selecting. So that's what I want to say to you here today. As you're listening to this program, as you're watching Steve and I share what we've come here to share today, ask yourself, am I a part of this? Does this speak to me? Have I been asking that very question? What can we do? What can we do? There must be something we can do. What can I do? And the sad part about it is so many people come to the conclusion, well, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing individually that I can do. But that's not true. Yet, all the great movements of the world have been started by a handful, relatively speaking. There are 8 billion of us on the planet. By a relative handful of people, a few thousand or a couple 100,000 people out of several billion people can change the world overnight. But you have to self-select. You have to say, you know what? I select myself to be part of this outreach. This is exactly the answer that I've been looking for. I've been asking with everybody else, what can I do? What can I do? And here's the answer right in front of me. We can leverage what you and I agree on are the basic principles that humanity is invited now to embrace and to follow. We can leverage our agreement to produce an outcome that could, in fact, change the world.
Yeah, and it will. It can and it will, and it has already begun. I'll read you another quote from Awaken the Species, the God Solution that Neale references, a more recent book, which is a beautiful book. And wow, that's very powerful. This Conversations with God, Book 4, Awaken the Species, incredible. What it says. So here's something, if you want to feel into something hopeful. It says, the biggest part of the mountain, the toughest climb, is behind you. Behind you. And it adds, the awakening of others will not happen by chance, but as a nice but not specifically focused on result, but as an intended effect of the personal evolution of all those who self-select to accept the invitation that has been extended here. Neale was just talking about the self-selection process and how that works. Let's go take a look at, we've got a video here from an earlier Wednesday program with where Neale is talking about this whole Conversations with God thing, where it says, actually, throughout the book, it says these books were not meant to just be a hot read. And because there are all of these jaw-dropping moments throughout the book that do, in fact, make them a hot read, where you're going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But the book is saying, let's be clear. This was not meant to just create a jaw-dropping series and then you fold the book up and put it in your bookshelf. It says this book or this series was created to be a catalyst for your future. I got him, and just I'm going to give you a little clarity, a few suggestions, and then do with it what you want. Here, let's go to this video where Neale talks a little bit about it.
Steve, it has been impressed on me that the wonderful messages of Conversations with God were, as you just said, never meant for me alone. I didn't really understand that fully until I saw the impact that these messages were having on other people. And no one could have, I couldn't even have imagined actually that even a book would be published. I sent it to a publisher, these notes that I had, I sent them to a publisher on a dare. I was actually daring God because God said to me, "You will make of this one day a book." And I thought, yeah, of course. Who's going to publish my middle of the night mental meanderings? So, but a small publisher on the East Coast of the United States did publish it, and much to my shock and surprise, it wound up reaching many, many people, actually millions of people, not bragging, just saying, around the world. So yes, you're right. What I've discovered, based on the response I've gotten from people all over the planet, is that these messages were intended not just to be seen and absorbed, but in fact to be acted on. And what God is doing here is inviting humanity to step into its future in a new and exciting, in a dramatic and active way. That is, Steve, I asked God, what is it that you're up to? What is your greatest desire? What do you want us to do? And God said to me, Neale, I don't want you to do anything. That is, I do not have a desire. There's no such thing as God's will in the sense of an agenda that I have for you. But there is such a thing as God's desire. And my desire is that you will have the ability and the opportunity, and I would invest in all of you the power to create your own reality, to produce the outcomes in your individual lives and in your collective experience that you would love to encounter as you move through your life. So what God is inviting us to do in these dialogues is to take note of how all of that works and then to make a commitment to ourselves. You know what? I'm going to play a role. I'm going to play an important part in producing the outcomes that humanity is going to experience in the years just ahead. Not just for me, but for my children and my grandchildren and those who will follow me. I have an opportunity here to play a really important role, and I intend to do that. So that's really what I've come to be aware of with regard to the Conversations with God material. As you just said, it was not simply intended to be an interaction, a spiritual encounter with one human being, but with the whole of humanity, and to give us all an opportunity to change our reality here on earth.
Okay, and that's what we're talking about, changing our reality.
I couldn't have put it any better. I wish I had said that.
Yeah. Well, nicely done, Neale. Yeah, so we wanted to cut that segment out. Now, just a word about Humanity Stream. That is on, just like this program is going on Humanity Stream. Neale, at the present time, has 75 programs on Humanity Stream, and I know because this morning I went to the platform and there's a search function. You just type in the name, Neale Donald Walsch, and boom, it's 75 programs at the present time. Now, I mention that because part of the initiative here, as we go about changing humanity's future, is just extending into every home, in every region of the world, in every major language, education from, again, these hundreds and thousands of thought leaders who are placing their conscious content on the platform. It's a true streaming platform that's one click. Neale has a couple of master classes on there, our Final Frontier and his most recent one, Discover Your Soul's Purpose with Michael Bernard Beckwith. But then he has all of these other programs as well that he's created to reach into people's homes, to create clarity, to create direction. So invite you to check it out, Humanity Stream Plus, and just a couple other things. It is a true streaming platform, so Roku and Google Pay and Apple TV and all those things work. It's one click. And we've been driving the price down because we're a nonprofit organization, a 501c3. So our interest is the opposite of a for-profit, where we're trying to get top-line growth and profit growth. we're trying to get market penetration, or another way of saying that, we want to get this into every home in every region of the world in every major language. So when we first came out with this, it was $5.95 a year, then $4.95, and now it's $3.99. So the price is coming down, down, down. That's just a little more than the price of one masterclass. All of Neale's programs, the science programs with Nassim Harriman and Greg Braden, all of these, Bruce Lipton, all of these programs are available, hundreds of programs on the platform. And the last thing I'll share about it is we also have a one-for-one program. So because there are a lot of people that couldn't afford this conscious streaming platform at any price. So when you purchase your own subscription for a year, you gift a free subscription to an underserved, underprivileged individual that couldn't afford it otherwise. So check out Humanities Stream Plus, where we're doing, this is where the education is happening, that's bringing all of this amazing content into homes and offices around the world. When we talk about this at One Mint or conscious living or the new spirituality, there are different phrases we can use. There's a lot involved, because we're healing trauma, we're looking at new definitions of leadership, new definitions of what conscious business can be, and there isn't kind of a one-size-fits-all thing where we just get it and embody it, and all of a sudden we're living consciously in the ways that we might like. It's an education process, and where you just take a little fraction of your time that's going maybe to Amazon now or to Netflix, and you go through a program, one a week or maybe every other week. It's incredibly, it's like, I hate to use the term potato chips here, but once you get a taste for these, wow, like for my wife and I, we're going through these things all the time, because there's so much to sponge up versus just a mindless program that's kind of interesting, but when it's over, and there's really nothing there left for you at the core. So check it out. That's the Humanities Stream Plus platform. It's a part of this initiative to change humanity's future. So now, just talking some more about this initiative, this is the biggest initiative ever undertaken by Neale, by me, by our organizations. We actually we're just starting to reach out to our people on our email list and on social media to educate them about this campaign called Changing Humanity's Future. On July 6th, that's a Wednesday, so at 10 a.m. Pacific, that's 1 p.m. Eastern, Neale and I will go into the whole initiative, what it is at its conception, because it's going to grow into much more. We'll even talk a little bit about the vision and what it's going to grow into, but we're going to talk in some detail on Wednesday, July 6th, about the initiative, what we're doing together, where it's going, and how we intend to change humanity's future in some very specific ways. So I think we have a link, and we'll put that in the window so you can join us if you like. It's a free program, of course, where we're just going to talk about what we're up to there. So Neale, I know you're excited about this with the Conversations with God Foundation, all of us in the Humanities team. Boy, is this the time to really be pivoting, or what?
Well, you've said it, clearly, and it couldn't be said any better. Yes, of course, this is the time. People have been asking, by the way, with regard to this being the time, people have been asking me a lot in the past 9 or 10, 12 months, in the past 24 months or so, what's going on? Why is all this happening? I mean, everything at once. We have, this going on over here and this situation over here. We have, the economic challenges. We've got the civil rights challenges. We have the health challenges all across the planet. If it is one kind of pandemic, it's another. Why is everything happening all at once? And what is really going on here? And yes, what's going on is that humanity is encountering and created for itself. You want to know, this is not God creating these things. God is not up there saying, I know what I'll do. I'll create a pandemic and then some economic collapse, or at least huge economic challenges for people all over the world. And then I'll create some real civil rights, social challenges as well. And then I'll and then I'll make it very difficult for, no, see, God is not up there deciding how things are going to be down here in order for us to create this moment in time. We have done that in some ways unconsciously. But because of our lack of consciousness, because so many people are still unconscious, which is the whole point, by the way, of what we are hearing us talk about right now, because humanity has been so unconscious, because we're interacting with each other socially, economically, racially, spiritually, politically, unconsciously, without being aware of the fundamental truth of humanity's experience of itself, who we are, why we're here, what is the point of all of life, because we're approaching these experiences in life, daily life, so unconsciously, we are creating unconsciously the outcomes we've been seeing. So what's going on here? The answer to the question, what's happening? Why is all this happening right now? All of this is happening right now because we've reached a turning point. We've found ourselves in a box canyon. We can't go on like this any further. My friend Gene Houston puts it perfectly. We've walked into a box canyon, and the wall of the canyon is approaching us, and we can't. There's no way forward. We can only go up and over to the next plateau, as Gene Houston marvelously puts it. You can't go through the wall that we're now walking right into. We're walking into a wall because of our own unconscious behaviors. But there is a solution, and that is to, dare I say it, become conscious. That is to awaken ourselves to the fact that we are already awake. We simply don't know it. Now, sometimes when I say that in front of audiences, people say, Neale, what are you talking about? First, you say we have to awaken. Then you say we already are awake, but we don't know it. Have you ever had the experience? Let me ask you a question. By the way, I just had the experience this morning. Have you ever had the experience of being wide awake? I mean, you're lying there in the early morning hours, maybe a bit before dawn, and you're wide awake, but you don't know you're wide awake? And you hear a thump or a sound or a voice or something in the middle of the night, and you think it's all part of a dream? And then you wake up, you finally do fully awaken, and you say, wait a minute, that sound wasn't in a dream. That actually happened in the next room. Something must have fallen down. I must have left a window open and knocked over, the wind came in and knocked over a vase, or the dog. You mean I've been awake all this while? Now, that's not an uncommon experience. And that's what's happening with us right now. We are awake, but we just don't know we're awake. And that's what this great campaign is about. The campaign to cause us to recognize, that is to recognize, that is to know again, to recognize, to another wonderful play on words from God's conversation with me, to recognize who we are, why we're here, and to raise our consciousness to the point where we embrace the consciousness which already exists deep inside of us. I know that these truths exist deep inside of us because, as I said a while ago, when people open these books and read them, they say to themselves, of course, yep, of course. Yes, I get it. I totally agree. So now we get to move forward and take that universal agreement and turn it into universal action. Remember that turn of phrase that I just placed in front of you. This whole thing is about taking our universal agreement and turning it into universal action to create universal outcomes, to create the universe of our dreams.
Amen. That's what we're talking about, and that's what we're doing. And the hardest part is behind us. So, right? So we can do this. We are doing this. This is a huge initiative. Invite you to join with us. You'll see from Humanity's team and the Conversations with God Foundation lots more on this initiative, which we're going to take all the way to the end. And the end, by the way, is in this generation, which is said again throughout Conversations with God. It says, You can do this in this generation. You can do it in less than decades. You can do it in years. It's just a matter of your will. So this is what we're doing here is come on, let's pivot, let's go. We've already started. We're already probably stretching into this to some degree. What we're inviting everyone to do is let's stretch a little further. Let's put a little more in. So Neale just brought in one example of where that we're already awake. And one of the things it's saying here in the Conversations with God series is the best way to awaken ourselves is to awaken another. Isn't that interesting? It's what teachers actually have always said, right? Well, I teach it because I want to know it, right? So we've heard this before. So just don't be comfortable getting into the second person where you're inviting, say, so this is what I'm doing. So do you want to do this? Does this have application in your life? I'd like to invite you to try this and this and this, where we're all, out there sharing with others, teaching others. It's the best way to awaken ourselves is to awaken another. This is some of the wisdom of Conversations with God. I'll just share one other, which is a really central one throughout all of the series, and it's to follow the impulse of your soul in every moment. Follow the impulse of your soul in every moment. Neale, maybe you can talk about that, because that's important and it feels really good, doesn't it?
See, of course it does. And the reason that it does is because your soul is who you really are. Let me just take a minute, if I could, please, to explain what I meant by that last statement when I said your soul is who you really are. Most people are being invited now on the planet to make a decision, to make a choice. Who am I? I mean, who really am I? Am I simply a physical entity? Like a bird in the sky or a fish in the sea? I'm born, I live, I die, and that's the beginning and the end of it. Is that who I am? A physical specimen, a physical life form? Or is it possible, just possible, that I'm more than that? That I'm a spiritual entity, having a body and having a mind. Now, if that's true, that I'm really a spiritual entity here in the physical realm, and if we agree that we can call that spiritual entity our soul, which is a universal term that's used loosely by people all around the world, if I agree that I really am a soul, now that's the place from which I will find and from which I can extract all the wisdom, all the understanding, all the awareness that exists in the soul of humanity and bring it forward into my mind's understanding and into my body's activity. So yes, just as Steve said, listen to your soul. And there are ways to do that. There are ways to just be quiet with yourself and you will know what the soul is seeking to say to you. Even right now, by the way, with regard to what I'm saying to you right here, with regard to what Steve has been saying for the past few moments, with regard to this whole campaign. As you're watching this program right now, take 7 seconds. So that's all it takes. It's 5 or 8 or 10 seconds to really get in touch with your soul and ask yourself, what is my soul saying to me right now with regard to what's being said and what's being offered to me, with regard to the invitation that I'm now hearing? Oh, and by the way, if you wonder where this invitation is coming from, don't miss what's happening here. It might look as if this invitation is coming from Steve or from me, but it's not. Who created you being here right now? Who do you think created your hearing these words right now? So you're not here by accident. This is not a coincidence. You brought yourself here. That's what listening to your soul is all about. And if you want to know what your deepest, most viable response to what you're hearing right now would be, take 5 or 7 seconds. Do it right now. I dare you right now. Let's do it together. This will take 5 seconds of your time. And listen to what your soul has to say about what's being heard right now. It's that simple.
Yeah,
It's that
beautiful.
simple. And you either then surrender to the wisdom within, or all of us as a civilization continue to ignore it. The days of ignoring it are over. The days of responding to it have arrived. I could, of course, be wrong about all of this, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. That was beautiful, Neale. Thank you. And also for anybody that might think this is an interesting conversation, kind of just of maybe limited importance. Let me come back to where we started earlier in this program, where right in the Conversations with God material, it says, this is the most important matter facing the human race at this time. This is not a little interesting, good read or good audible type thing. This, we believe, is the most important matter facing humanity. So as we look at, what wall is my ladder leaning against, to use a metaphor, this should be in that wall. Or at least if you feel there's merit to the kinds of things that we're talking about here. I want to also share on this subject of the soul for people that want to go deeper, because there are many people, I have many friends that are newer to the journey, and this whole notion of following their soul's calling is intriguing. And sometimes they'll say, do you have training on that? Or do you all, even, I have a brother that said, do you all come into offices and talk to management teams? Because it seems like there's something here. So there's a free program, actually, and it's called Divining Your Destiny, that Neale and Michael Bernard Beckwith created. It's an hour-long free program that gets into this whole discussion of your soul and the calling of your soul. On the humanitiesteam.org website, you can find it up at the top. It has programs. There's a section, free programs. If you go in there, Divining Your Destiny, you can watch that free hour, and boy, I'll tell you, you'll get a lot out of that. Let me go to questions here that are coming in, and thank you, viewers, for wanting to jump in here and have dialogue with Neale. So this is from Oscar Armando Pinochi. He says, hi, my name is Oscar. I'm from Buenos Aires. As Neale was mentioning earlier, there are people all over the world actually watching this live broadcast. He says, please, can you tell me, why is this the perfect time to create a flourishing world? While humanity seems to be walking at into a sixth mass extinction, as I understand it. So he's wanting some clarity here, Neale, as to why is this the perfect time to be opening up this initiative here?
Because we have created the conditions which make it possible for us to see at last what's really going on, where we are headed if we continue in our present direction, and to see at last the solution and the outcome, as I mentioned a bit earlier. So why this is a perfect time is, if this had been like 150 years ago, before we had something like the internet as an example, before we had the ability to talk to each other, before we had the ability for you to even ask the question you just asked, see, that would not have been the perfect time. But this is the perfect time, not only because we are now, in fact, walking into that wall that I mentioned, marching into that box canyon that Gene Houston talks about, not just because we are facing these crises, but because at this same moment in time, we have gathered the ability, the tools, and the determination to stop the direction in which we have been moving for thousands of years. So this is the perfect time because it's the culmination, technologically, spiritually, politically, socially. It's the culmination of humanity's journey on the planet. And that makes it the perfect time for us to gather together and to bring our tools together, to bring our determination together, to bring our commitment together, and to use this moment to produce the outcomes for which we have yearned for these many years. That's why this is the perfect time.
Yes, it is. And one way of looking at this, if we want to use some metaphor, is this whole American dream thing that I think there's some contagion to the world with it, where people say bigger, better, more. Boy, that's for me. Let me go kind of create my riches and fame and fortune and all of these things. But this is what's at the root of all of these challenges that are out there, where we're treating the earth as a refrigerator, and where it's just about where it's a monetary thing, as opposed to true prosperity, which is what we're talking about here when we talk about conscious living and at one-ment, where we're in all of these practices that are a part of conscious living, where we see the connection of things. We actually see that everything is all one. Science, of course, is affirming this now. Nassim Harriman and Greg Braden and so many others, where we're communing, going within and communing with the divine or the one. And of course, in Conversations with God, it says we can go within or we can go without. This whole integral theory of Ken Wilber's likewise brings in, there's the exterior world and there's the interior world. And Ken and the people that follow his practice we're in right now what he calls a flatland. The flatland is everybody's focused just on the external world. This whole interior world, where we're this whole going within process of communing, that it's largely being ignored by many. So this is part of this box canyon that Neale brings in from Gene Houston. That's what this higher elevation is.
And there are people who are saying, just as the last person asked about, why now when everything looks like it's falling apart, wherever you look, everything is falling apart. And Conversations with God said to me really very clearly, when things are falling apart, they just might be falling together for the first time. But we have to be aware of the process and committed to become part of the process, so that things falling apart will actually wind up being falling together for the first time. And that's why this is the perfect time for our advancement. So play a role. Decide to play a role. Decide to make a commitment, and you can make that commitment right now, right here, today, if you choose to do so. It's an inner commitment. It's an inner decision. It's a personal choice.
And if you like the idea, boy, get ready if you do this. Say to the God of your understanding, am I to play a role? And what kind of role? What is my station here? And then if you want to really go big, say, okay, I'm ready to be the grandest version of the greatest vision that I've ever had about myself. To be the arms and legs and lungs of the divine here, and to just rip and make this thing happen. Give me direction on that. I guarantee, even with the first question, you wait and watch and see what happens. You're just going to be astonished. And then if you ask that second question, whoa, is all I can say. Because you're gonna just be bounding out of bed in the morning with the kinds of guidance that you're going to be given. So let's get to another question here. So this is Claire says, I'm here and ready to be part of the solution, but a lot of the people I know have thrown their arms in the air and see no solution. Help me, this gorgeous planet and life upon it, and others just don't see any resolution. Claire, this is what Neale and I were bringing this. This is where our initiative started here 6-8 months ago, where it was so frustrating because I've been a party to these very same conversations where, exactly as you described it, Claire, people are saying, there just isn't, they throw up their arms, there just isn't anything we can do.
And as long as you model the fact that there is something we can do, you can change their mind. When someone says, any friend of yours, anyone you're talking to about this, if they say, well, there's nothing we could do, what can we do? You know what you can say to them? 2 incredible words. Let me put 2 words into your mind that you can say just then when somebody says, there's nothing we can do. Well, what can we do? What can we do? Here are the 2 words you can say to them. Watch me. Watch me. I'll show you what we can do. And we begin by modeling the behavior we wish to encourage. As Gandhi said so beautifully, be the change you wish to see.
Yeah, beautiful. And there is so much we can do. In our earlier programs, Neale and I have talked about this soul's calling, and how we talked about there are many people
Steve,
that say there's just too good to be true. Yeah,
Steve, let me just excuse me for interrupting. I still see that person saying, Neale, words, words, words. Give me something directly that I can do. A lot of fancy words. What can I, as an individual, do? Join with others that are making the same commitment. That's what this is all about. That's what the campaign to change humanity's future is all about. If you're actually sitting there thinking, maybe there isn't anything I can do, allow yourself to decide, wait a minute, alone, if I was the only one on the entire planet, one person out of 8 billion, probably not as much that I could do that I would like to think. But now, wait a minute. What if I joined with thousands or hundreds of thousands of other people? What if I joined with the millions of people who have already read Conversations with God, as an example? What if I became part of, truly an active part of, humanity's team? I got to tell you how they all started in my mind. I had a dream one night that all these players were on the field and they were hurting each other and killing each other and being unkind to each other and creating complications for each other. But they all had their different jerseys. They had the economic team, the political team, the spiritual team, and the various members of the different spiritual teams. And they're all wearing, blue uniforms, yellow uniforms, red uniforms. And I remember in the dream, I was watching this happen. Kind of like it was a metaphor. I was aware that I was dreaming. It was a lucid dream. And I remember thinking as I was watching all this, but who will be on humanity's team? And I bolted upright in the middle of the night, raced down to my computer, got out of bed, went to my office, and I typed in the Google search engine, humanity's team, to see if there was an organization like it, and there was nothing like it, nothing even close to it. And I thought, I get it. What we have to do is form humanity's team. So if you're sitting there thinking, Claire, what can I do? Or what do I say to people who say there's nothing we can do? You might say to them, you know what, I can understand how you could feel that way. But what if we became members of a movement, part of an outreach that's global in scope? What if it wasn't just me against the world? What if I decided to be a member of humanity's team? Wow. And become part of that global outreach to change humanity's future. Now we've leveraged our combined universal desire and turned it into universal action. So be with us on humanity's team, Claire. That's what you can do, and you can do it right now.
Yeah, and Claire and viewers, I think we've got a link that we're going to put up on social media here. There's a big call, a Zoom call, that Neale and I are doing on Wednesday, July 6th, beginning at 10 a.m. Pacific. That's 1 p.m. Eastern, on this initiative. It's called Changing Humanity's Future, where the whole program is just going to go down into the details of this is what this program is, this is how we're going to go do it. We actually are creating something called a Founder Circle, and we're going to invite people that deeply resonate with this to become a part of the Founder Circle, where we go straight at this. By 2040, in the next 18 years, we change humanity's future. We're the answer to this question that's being asked all over the world of what can be done? How can we do this? We're going to model it ourselves. Again, one of the key things that's shared in Conversations with God and by our partners, the Michael Beckwiths of the world and others, is, of course, when we talk about changing humanity's future, where does it start? It starts with us individually. It always begins with individual change, which is really cool, because there's the fruit of this individual change is off the charts. That's a whole nother discussion of what we experience as we become conscious within that box canyon, as we rise up into this higher level of consciousness, what that feels like, the prosperity that becomes our life. So join us on July 6th. Come to that call, listen to Neale and I as we take you through the invitation of this project, and then join with us, and hey, to the rest of our lives, if you like the idea, if you resonate with this, give some time to really live in this, being an example, where you do what Neale just described, where people say to you, how are we going to do this? And you say, watch me. Okay, here's another question. Actually, we're out of time. I said this hour was going to go fast, and we're actually already out of time. So George and Joan, thank you for coming in with questions here. Come back. Neale and I are going to be doing a lot more of these programs. We've got the July 6th program coming up, and Humanities Team, the Conversations with God Foundation. You'll see lots more on this. And again, just the invitation here is find your own role. We're not here to be talking heads or to do entertainment or anything like that. Neale and I are simply here to extend the invitation. This is about an invitation. We're extending an invitation to you to be the change in the world, to up-level your own consciousness, to this at-one-ment, bring it into your life, your family's life, into your office's life, because this is something we're going to all do together. So thank you, viewers. Thank you for being with us here for this live program. Neale Donald Walsch, thank you, brother, for coming in and sharing so beautifully. To the Humanities Team friends, the Neale Donald Walsch friends, Conversations with God friends, Sign Network friends, thank you to all of you. Really a total pleasure being with you. Neale will be back again soon as part of this live program. There's so much more as we unfold this initiative into all of what we can be and do together to create this beautiful, this new world that we've all envisioned, we've all dreamed about, and that we're going to bring into reality together. Okay, thanks everybody. Love and peace and blessings. And we can pull the camera back here too. Jim Gray is in the studio here with me. He's our director producer there. That's me on the couch in shorts. You can see Jim over there. Jim, thank you. Karen Gordon runs the communications thing, so all of these communications going out are under her. Dee Meyer, Garth Catterall, Nanette Kennedy. Thank you, my brothers and sisters that make this program possible. And we'll see you guys next week. Be back Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, and looking forward. Take care, everybody. Love and peace and blessings.